Let's find out by speaking with Aparna Saxena, the CEO of TORAJAMELO. Good morning, Aparna. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, good morning. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to finally meet you as well. First of all, congratulations for being named the SME champion at the 2021 WEP Awards, which was established by the UN Women and Global Compact Office. So can you tell us more about this award, Aparna?
We got the award in the leadership commitment category for SME champion. And it was basically our practice of trying to create a gender equal workplace and walking the talk as far as taking steps towards creating more gender inclusive practices in whatever we do. So
that is amazing.
I think it's a great.
That is amazing, and you must be proud of what you and your team have done. So in your website, you mentioned that TORAJAMELO's reason for being is to address issue of outward migration from rural communities by focusing on reviving rural economies with weaving as an entry point. Can you elaborate more on what has been the impact of your activity?
So in the rural indigenous communities, there was a stage, and it still exists in certain areas, where weaving is dying because it was not as popular, and therefore young women were not taking up weaving but leaving their communities to work outside as house help or domestic workers. And this would lead to breakdown of their homes.
Yes.
And therefore the founder, who's married to a Torajanese, and that's why she landed up in Toraja, and our name means beautiful Toraja. When she saw this problem, she did the 5 eyes and figured out, okay, what can I do? And she had a conversation with these weavers saying, if I start buying your weaving, will you stay and not leave your homes and, revive your cultural heritage, but also have a source of employment, right? So that's where it started. And now from Sulawesi, we are in NTT. We'll be heading to Kalimantan and Papua also soon. Continuing this mission of making sure that indigenous heritage of Indonesia is preserved. Women have a source of income because the backstrap loom weaving is only done by women. And essentially, we are also now getting into environmental friendly practices. So we are trying to use natural dyes and natural fibers so that we also support the overall environment and really walk the path on sustainability.
That's fantastic, Aparna. I bet you and your team also see a psychological impact in the women. For example, I can only imagine back then when they didn't really have much to do and they've lost their pride for weaving. They pretty much, probably they're not as proud as they are now. So what is the psychological impact of this movement, especially on these amazing women?
It's been immense because first of all, as I told you, right, weaving was not so popular. And when we ended up taking it to countries like Japan way back and even to Paris, one is the locals started wearing it. And the respect for women weavers came back. And literally we've had so many women saying that, when I pay for my children's education, when I'm able to bring, because their ceremonies are very important. So they bring animals and gifts. So they said, when I'm able to bring an animal to the ceremony, I'm able to hold my head high, even though I might be a single mother. And literally now they have regained their pride and dignity, their sense of agency, which is the most important thing for us, right? That they do not need anyone's support to survive and thrive.
Absolutely.
Right. It's super empowering to
see.
hear that. Yes. And amazing. You mentioned about revival, but also what about regeneration as, for example, this generation now well off, they probably want their children to go to school because they want their children to have quote-unquote better jobs, right? How do you make sure the regeneration of this weavers community?
Great question. And that's been one of our core focus, because weaving as a craft can take 10 to 15 years to master, right? Which means most of the master weavers are now older, 40 and 50.
Yeah.
And if the young ones are not inducted into this craft, it can lead to challenges in regeneration and continuity. So it's been ingrained in our approach that whenever we are working with the community, we have the older master weavers, then we have weavers between the age of say 30s to 40, and then we have the younger weavers who are in their late teens to the 20s, and we want this to continue. Also, there's been a lot of negotiation and counseling because they only want to pass on to their family members and they who might not be willing to teach the other young women. So it was a lot of negotiation and literally telling them that this craft will die.
Right.
And they have very unique motifs, indigenous.
Right.
So we had to tell them that if you don't teach, after you, this is gone.
Right.
And that's how we've been able to regenerate 27 and revive 4 motifs from extinction.
Wow, that's amazing. So you're saying that each family usually has different motifs or like family motifs. Is that it?
There could be family, but generally it's communities.
Community
right?
motifs.
So they're tribes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So, Aparna, you aim to introduce Indonesian weaving to the global stage. And we know that other countries and other regions globally, they also have weavings, right? So what separates Indonesian weaving from methods from other countries?
So there are many kinds of weaving, and what is unique about our weaving is it's the back strap loom weaving, which basically uses the tension of the woman's leg and her hand width.
Wow.
Which is why most of the pieces will be 75 to maximum 75 centimeter wide,
Right.
because she's using the width of her hand.
Oh,
So it's literally made and done by a woman, as you can see in this video. So the strap is at her back, and that is giving the tension with her legs.
Wow. Okay.
And not that it's not done elsewhere, but this is very specific to communities. Each community will create their own instruments and implements. Yeah. And then I think the biggest difference are the motifs. The motifs will have stories, lores attached to them. There is a motive to depending on what mood they are in.
Oh,
If
wow.
she's happy, the motif she might weave will be different to the other motif. And there is significance that what can what is made with which motif is woven with what.
Right.
And they know this best, and therefore there is one thing we are very clear on, that a master weaver is a master weaver. They can weave motifs from any community, but for us it's super critical that we keep the indigenous heritage alive.
Yes.
Right, and that they stick to their motifs. We don't have people exchanging motifs, because it is their article of geographical indication, owned by the community, no, not by anyone else. And that's been our core focus. So we want to keep that really alive, and we want them to keep doing this.
Wow, that is
That's amazing, because it means that each fabric is almost unique, because it really
Exactly.
depends on the artistry of each of the,
Yeah.
well,
Of the weavers.
the artists, which is the weavers.
Yes,
Wow.
exactly. And however, transferring this story, this knowledge that you have, that this is a bespoke, it has very customized to the weavers. I can imagine that it requires some storytelling when you market to other other market, especially international, right? Curious about what's your approach to marketing and storytelling, and also how do you ensure the quality, sustainability of the quality, durability, as well as also probably just the overall supply chain or fashion process when you go international?
Oh, it's a huge challenge, and that's why the founder tells me that I'm a bit crazy, because I like challenges. And supply chain in Indonesia is a challenge, and on top of it, we only work with remote areas, right? We work outside of Java. So therefore, there is a long-term planning. We are really, you could call it slowest fashion, not even slow fashion, slowest fashion. A lot of planning goes in, right from us envisioning the design and then working with the weavers to create those cloths.
Yes.
And that is the longest process, by the way, because there is seasonality aspect to it. There are certain periods they will not weave because weaving is blended into their lives. Yeah, they're not factory workers that they will weave 9 to 5. They'll wake up, they do their chores, then they weave for 3-4 hours, then they'll take a break, then they might weave again. So, when it's harvesting season or planting season, they're also farmers or fisher folk. They have to do their duties. So we really have to have a timeline of 3 to 4 months where we give them enough time to weave, because when it has to be done in scale, then the production happens, and then the marketing, etc. Which is why our collection that you both were looking and admiring will be released officially into the market this February.
Yay!
It's been in making, but we've been taking customized orders. Also, the challenge we face is we work with communities which are largely around the ring of fire. So they've had landslides,
Oh no.
earthquakes,
Yes.
floods. So therefore, despite all this, we tell them no. Life has to go on, and
Yes.
we are with you, and that's how we are progressing. So therefore, a lot of planning and flexibility.
Yes.
We
Yes.
have to exercise, which is why we are also not trying to be dependent on one community. So
Right.
we started with Toraja, but now we work with about 8 communities, right from Sulawesi to even Ntt,
Wow.
so that we can mix and match and bring out. And our focus is to bring more assortment and variety rather than volume,
Right.
right?
Yes.
Because we want to showcase the uniqueness of weaving. We want people to appreciate slow, ethical fashion because the wages are fair, transparent supply chain. We support female-led SMEs also, so even in our supply chain.
Yeah.
So I think it's about that storytelling.
Right. Right.
And to be very honest, we are not very good at it. We are learning, right? We've been too busy working. And I think platforms like SEM Morning Show, I hopefully, take our voice out, because as of now, we are now selling in India through a partner and in Singapore. And now the plan is Australia, Japan, and back to Europe. So
Wow.
we hope more people can listen to our stories and appreciate the rich, beautiful culture Indonesia has, which is beyond batik.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much for helping promote Indonesian culture as well. And I am I'm so pro slow fashion, so I'm glad that you said, well, probably TORAJAMELO is the slowest fashion.
Which is like super interesting for Marissa, who's a minimalist.
Yes, so good for you, Aparna, and also the entire team. All right, well, thank you so much, Aparna Saxena, the CEO of TORAJAMELO, for sharing with us. Success to you. You will definitely see me as one of your clients, purchasing all the beautiful clothes and fabrics that are on your website. Success to you.
All the best of luck for TORAJAMELO. Bye.
Bye, Aparna. Thank you.
Thank you.